Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Jeff Davids, and yeah, it's really great to be here with you guys today. Just a couple introductory remarks. We are recording this, and the idea is that I'd love to have this training in Nepal because I've primarily worked with colleagues in Nepal for the last 3 years. But it's just a little bit easier to record this and kind of export the digital content than moving me from here to there. So we're going to be recording it, and then when we have questions, we have this catch box, I believe it's called, or talk box, or what we can name it if we want to. But whenever you have a question, we'll just toss this to whoever has the question, and just aim your voice into the X there. Okay? So test. Who has a question here? Yeah, here we go. All right.
Can I also use the iPhone?
Perfect. Excellent question. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah. The other few kind of introductory remarks are this is the first time I've ever given a training like this, and I'm not a programmer, either by skill or trade or education or anything. I'm just sort of a pragmatic guy that wants to actually use this as a tool. So it's quite likely that if you have a question that kind of goes into a deeper level, I might not know the answer to it, but we can certainly talk to the right people to figure it out. But don't let that hold back your questions. I think that's it. So I have just a silly little exercise here to kind of illustrate what we're doing. So this is the good old days, all right? So I'm going to pass these guys out. And we're going to just take a minute to fill these out. So I'm passing out some surveys here. Yep. 1, 2, 3. All right. 1, 2. Welcome back, you guys. All right. I don't know if I have enough for everybody, but here's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and here's one for you. All right. So yeah, just take a moment, just very quickly, to go through this. Good old day form here. So we're just going to take, maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to fill this out. And you probably have to go with stick figures on the picture. Probably don't have time for the a self-portrait of, yes. Did you, yeah, I'm sorry. I think I did not have enough, and I really apologize that this is actually really not important at all. Let me make that very clear right now. This is there's no grades based on this. This is just supposed to be an icebreaker or something like that, I guess. I'm sorry for not having one for you. Okay, we gotta move on. So however good, however bad your form is, pass it down to the center here so we can accumulate forms down in this direction. So just pass it down. The perfectionist among you have to just kind of call it quits. Anjana, it's good enough. You have to yeah. Okay. Keep them coming, keep them coming. This table wins. First table. Yep, thank you. Uh-oh. Juan Carlos is the perfectionist of the group here. Thank you, sir. Very good picture. Very nice, yeah. All right. Uh-oh. Still working. I got to take it. Yeah, no worries. This is, you just missed the exercise, but it's really not that big of a deal. Great. Yeah, your picture's about like what mine would be. Yours is amazing, though. Your picture is beautiful. Yes. Wow. Okay. Well, this training is all about, how do we collect data with smartphones, right? So what I just did, please don't ever do that again. Like, right? Because, okay, first of all, I have all these pieces of paper, right? And, you know, a lot of people didn't get anything on, say, the location information. Like, for instance, this one, and I won't name any names, but it's blank, right? And then on this one, I got 60 north. Well, that's quite close because I know, well, what is the one that goes through the building? It's not 60, it's 52, isn't it? Yeah, so it's 52, so it's not even right. Okay. Yeah, so you get the point. Now, and then if I want to make sense of this data, what do I have to do now? Right? I have to sit down and, you know, get my kids to put it into the computer for me, right? And then I have to threaten them, you know, to actually do it. And just kidding. But yeah, I mean, it's a challenging thing. So I mean, we all have this this beautiful device, right, running around in our pockets. Some of us have maybe more than one. And yeah, let's use this tool. So how can we do that practically? That's kind of the point of this training. And it's really going to be like very small of me talking, which I think is a good thing. And it's going to be very much you guys doing things. And then ultimately ending up with doing some data collection out in the field and then coming back and taking a look at it. So just as a little bit of an introduction, kind of where I'm coming from on this subject area, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in Nepal. And I think I'm just going to cast from, or do it from this screen because it's kind of confusing to me to have two screens with the same content. Is everybody okay with that? It's good? Okay. So yeah, so there's more cell phones in the world than there are toilets. So it's really crazy. This is my buddy Ramesh here in the Terai of Nepal. This is how he levels his field, except when he gets off of his oxen, he pulls out his smartphone and then checks the price of rice, right, or something like that. So it's like this leapfrog technology that Ramesh here is both doing something that they did 2,000 years ago in terms of farming, but then he has access to this tool in a smartphone that really, yeah, just has been available for the last 10 years. Okay, so what does a smartphone have? Why are we talking about this today? Well, it's got a way to tell you where you are in space, right? It has a good GPS. GPS is just getting better and better. I think at some point we'll have like the real-time kinematic corrections to the GPS and it'll be quite accurate. Right now a smartphone is maybe, yeah, 10, 15, 20 meters, something like that. It has a camera, so you can capture this metadata. It has a way to transmit this information through space, so with these modems, GSM or CDMA. And then it has a good clock. And of course, what this boils down to, right, is that it's a perfect tool for Facebook, Twitter. Yeah, definitely not. It's actually a perfect data collection tool, I think, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, let's use a smartphone for what it's intended for. And again, in Nepal, what we're trying to do is kind of put this combination of things together. So what we're really interested in is mobilizing these young researchers here, which is what this icon represents, and then combine them with community members in these places where we're investigating water resources, and then again, give them the tool to facilitate this exchange and kind of mobilize this process. So that's kind of the ingredient that we're working off of. And these are some of the data that we're collecting. So precipitation, stream flow, groundwater level, information about land use and water quality and all that. So that's kind of the brief context, again, where I come at this from. And what we're going to work with today is Open DataKit. That's going to be the ecosystem that we work with. And so it's an app. It's only for Android devices right now, but people are working on different open source projects to make it available for iOS. And so this is just an example of what we use in Nepal to measure rainfall. So we're going to record the date and time, record our GPS coordinate, and then record, choose what type of parameter you want to measure. And then very importantly, the benefit of the smartphone really is in the metadata that you get with the observation, right? So we take a picture of our cheap little rain gauge here that we can build for less than $1, and then we ask for the citizen scientists to put in the value, right? So oftentimes what we see here is 3.8, right? Because they read it in centimeters, but it's okay because we have the picture, we can correct the value, and then we can communicate back with the person to say, hey, here's how you read it in millimeters, and give some corrective action to that. So that's kind of a brief introduction of what we're aiming for at the end of this day. And what I'd like to do now, I guess we can, I don't know if this is, well, maybe we can just cut this out of the, the thing. But what I'd like to do is just have a quick introduction of all you guys. Just say, your name, why you're interested, I guess where you're coming from, your affiliation, then why you're interested in this subject matter. And then we'll get into the more of the technical goodies. Okay? So, yeah, okay, we'll pass this guy around. What was the name again? Okay, thank you, sir. Excellent. Well, that's great to get a kind of a range of where people are at. And I think the challenge with training or a workshop like this is that there's some people, I think you mentioned, have used this a lot and are quite knowledgeable, and some people, ODK, what? And so I'm going to end up probably frustrating both the people who know a whole bunch already and perhaps the people who don't know anything, right? But we're going to try to thread the needle and find a sweet spot in the middle, right? Where we're all learning. Okay, so here is the agenda. We're going to just march through all this. The bulk of the time will be in building and testing XLS forms. That's kind of the way, again, to use this analogy, that's what we use to design this form, right, is this XLS form. And then we'll go into ODK Collect, the actual app, the client-side app, and then how do you deploy these apps once you have them developed, using both Google Drive, and then also after a break, using ODK Aggregate. Finally, we're going to head out to the field and collect some data with some forms, hopefully, that you've developed, and also maybe with one we have from Smartphones for Water. And then how do we get at these data? And then, just kind of a wrap-up and discussion. So that's the plan. So all of these materials that we're going to go through are digitally available at these links. So if you want to snap a picture, or once you get that first link, then everything else is available to you on Google Drive. So maybe get a web browser up and type it in or snap a picture. I'm going to assume if no one starts yelling at me in 5 seconds that I can go to the next slide. Well, so all the content we're going to go through, please ask questions if it's not clear what I'm talking about. All the content that we're going to go through is from these links. So if you want to get a web browser going, you can type it in now. Specifically, that top link will be the most beneficial, or you can just snap a picture. So is anybody going to? They're in there too. Yep. So you can grab the slides and follow along as well. It's in a Google slide presentation. Yep. So please interrupt me at any time with a question, or I have no idea what you're talking about, or you speak too fast, or whatever. So please interrupt. Okay, can I move on from this? This is good? Okay. And the other thing, I love when people actually give like a verbal response, or a head nod or anything. Juan Carlo, we good? We're good to go? Okay, here we go. All right, so so Open DataKit, just a little bit of history about this. It started about 11 years ago. It was originally a project that Google sponsored, and the University of Washington in the US was the one who kicked this off, led by this group of wonderful people here, and now really is taking a leadership role and is really active on Git and the documentation and stuff. So you might end up interacting with him if you end up using these tools. So what exactly does this kind of ecosystem entail? So it starts with, we're going to use this analogy again, it starts with building your form, right? So XLS Forms, we're going to get into that in a second, is how you actually figure out your workflow. What do you want to record? What types of information do you want to capture from your smartphone? Do you want the time, the date, GPS, picture, video, audio, text, number, right? Those are the types of things. And then what kind of math do you want? What kind of logic? Maybe you want, like, if they say yes to this question, then show them this. But if they say no, then show them this, right? So we have some branching kind of workflows based on how they interact. So all that's done in this XLS form. And then now we have a blank survey, right? Well, not quite yet, because we need to then convert that to a standard called XForm. An XForm is an XML file. You don't really need to know much about this step other than it's like 2 clicks. You just select your XLS form that's actually built in Excel, say convert, and then download the XML. But that's an important step, and we're going to use this XLS form online to do that. That's also the spot where it's going to look through your form design and say, hey, you can't do that. Or, yes, everything looks good, so here's your XML file. So it's kind of like the debugging process, okay? And then once we have that, we have a complete blank form, right? And then what we want to do is somehow distribute that form, right? So in class, I handed these out, right? But in the digital world, we're going to take a blank form and we're going to load it up to a server, right? And then from the server, people can point their phones to that server and say, hey, give me that blank form, right? And that's what we call the distribution process, right? So once it's on a server, people can point their client to that server and then download and distribute that form. And then, of course, we want to use it to collect the data, which would be filling out the information on this sheet. And then finally, we want to aggregate it. So again, I just went around and collected all of them. And then now I have an aggregated sheet or list of forms, okay? So that's kind of the whole process. And then, of course, there's one important step missing, which maybe gets us our master's degree or our PhD, or maybe pays for our food, right, which is the use part, right? So why are we doing this? We want to then analyze all this well-organized, well-curated, quality-controlled data. Okay, so I'm going to skip through this really quick, and then we're going to get into the practical nuts and bolts. But I want to give this for a little bit of context so that you know, it's kind of what we've ended up doing, and maybe the alternatives, and help you guys decide how you might implement a data collection program for yourself. So we kind of have 4 players here. So there's the people like us, the researchers, and then there's the citizen scientists over on the left, and then there's some technology in the middle, and then maybe the rest of the public over here. So again, the people collecting the data are going to use this app, ODK, but we have all these options, right, for what to do in the middle in terms of this process of who holds the form, who distributes the form, and who gets the form back, right? There's all sorts of options, and we're going to look specifically at Google Drive and ODK aggregate as those options. But then one that's worth mentioning is really pretty slick, is called Kobo Toolbox. If you want like a turnkey free solution that, you don't really have to do any programming or anything, that's an option, but it has some limitations. And then, of course, we kind of built a custom thing, a web app to handle the quality control process, the reporting, and then eventually the interaction of the general public with the data. And that's where we're at right now as a project. So this is not done, so this is kind of a draft. But that's kind of the big picture. And yeah, this probably should be a bit confusing. It is confusing to me every time I look at it still. But this is the big picture that we're aiming towards. Okay, so building and testing XLS forms. So we're going to focus on XLS form is all about these 2 steps here, both building the form and then also converting it to an X form. Okay, everybody has Excel on their computer. That's what we're going to use. Everybody's familiar with Excel. That's why they built this tool in Excel, is because it's something that we all know how it works. And, well, I don't know, what? My kids must have got in there and messed with my presentation here. No, just for context, does everybody know what this is? Because I know that we have a mixed audience from all over the world. Does anybody not know what this is? It's just kind of important that you know what this is for the rest of the exercises. So you can be brave. I mean, everybody knows Star Trek. Yeah? No? Okay. Star Trek is this amazing science fiction series, or it's actually a group of different programs starting in, I think, the late 60s maybe, with James T. Kirk over here, and then progressing on. I don't even know who that is, but yeah. It's a movie and TV show, and then some of the questions and examples are going to have questions about Star Trek. And I think it even had here on the bottom, if you got there, how many hours have you spent on Star Trek activities? So who's the highest one here? Okay, I think I would probably have the highest number, so I didn't fill it out. All right, so these are sample forms, right? There's 10 of them. And we're going to actually just go through however far we can get. Let me see. I'm going to try to stay on time here. Yeah, we're killing it. We're like right on time. So we're going to just spend some time together going through these and kind of how do XLS forms work. I said we're going to do it in Excel, but we're actually going to do it in Google Sheets. But it's almost exactly the same, and you can download it to Excel if you're more comfortable there. But the idea is we're going to go together through it, and then you guys are going to go and do an exercise. So that's kind of the workflow. So maybe 10 minutes together, and then you guys will go through this on your own. Can everybody get a web browser up? And if you didn't already, put that URL in. You can put this URL in, and it'll take you right to the folder in Google Drive that gives you these 10 Google Sheets. So why isn't everybody, you good? You got it? Awesome. Page not found. Okay, this one's an I. I don't know, and it is case sensitive, and that's maybe an O, or is it a 0? It's an O? Okay. So maybe, is it working now? Great. Anybody else having trouble? I tried to choose a font that was more explicit, but like the Calibri didn't show you anything about 1L. It all looks the same. I promise once we just get this working once, we won't have to do this a whole bunch. Okay? Yes? Yes, please. Well, here.
I like open source, huh?
Yes.
But, well, you must have heard about all the data privacy problems. What about this data, if we use Google?
Yeah.
Well, it's stored at Google. So what do we do with that?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, and honestly, I have no idea.
Okay. No,
we could have a discussion about it maybe
exactly.
at the break. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
I'm not asking because I want to put you in.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, it's a great question. I mean, Google's not exactly. I mean, they have agenda and they like to make a lot of money. So, does everybody have this? Are we good? Okay. So what we're going to do again is I'm just going to get out of the PowerPoint here. I'm going to go to meet you guys in this. Yep. Okay. So what you should see is something like that, and then a folder called XLS Form. Okay. So we're going to start with. It's really important if you're not here to tell me right now. So does anybody not have this one? Yeah. All right. So let's go back to let's make the view different. Yeah, and then an XLS form, and then there's all the sheets. So okay. So. Maybe if you could help your neighbor if they don't have it up yet, that'd be great. Where are we here? All right, I'm going to get that URL up again. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, HTTP bit Y and 2W GI. It is case sensitive, and is it O? Okay, so I'm gonna make it really very roundish, and then okay. Is it good? This one's a 2. I've always had bad handwriting. I'm sorry.